This is Raul Lopez, and you're listening to How Do You Save Success in Spanglish? The path to success isn't easy. For minorities and people of color, many attempt this journey with little to no guidance. Join me as I sit down with individuals who share their stories of perseverance so that together we can learn how to save success in Spanglish. What's good, mi gente? Welcome back. It's your boy Raul. Thank you for joining us today. Today on How Do You Say Success in Spanglish, I have a very good friend of mine, Giovanni Abril. Giovanni, Gio, how's it going, man?
It's going well. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining me. I hope you're enjoying the warm weather in Miami while I'm freezing my tail off up here in Connecticut. So
yeah, don't feel bad. It's Florida winter right now. It dropped to like the low 50s. So
oh yeah, we were like at 29 yesterday. So yeah. I don't pity you, man. But thank you so much, Gio. You are a firefighter. So let me just start off with a little bit introduction about you. So after 8 years in healthcare, and at the suggestion of his wife, Giovanni decided to go back to school and pursue his childhood dream of becoming a firefighter. In 2004, he was hired as a paid professional firefighter by the city of Hialeah Fire Rescue Department, and 2 years later was hired by Miami Dade County Fire Rescue. Giovanni has added many certifications to his resume, such as EMT-Paramedic, Hazardous Materials Technician and Specialist, Hazardous Tox Medic, Wildland Firefighter, Aircraft Rescue Firefighter, Driver Operator Fire Engine and Aerial Truck, Fire Instructor III, Live Fire Training Instructor. And in 2015, he began working on a part-time basis as an adjunct faculty instructor at Miami Dade Fire Academy at Miami Dade College North Campus. And as Gio puts it has been a great experience to help inspire and motivate young men and women with instruction on how to achieve their goals of serving their community. Welcome, Gio.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming. And obviously, I've known you because once again, transparency for everybody, you're one of my fraternity brothers. So correct. I've known you for quite some time. You've also from Boston University. So you've kind of been all over the place. So, I guess to start off, tell me a little bit, who is Giovanni?
Giovanni Abril. I'm, like you said, I'm a firefighter now, which is definitely not just a career change, but a lifestyle change. But I was born in Colombia. When I was a few months old, my parents moved to New York City, searching for that American dream like everybody else. And it was hard. I mean, it was great memories growing up in New York City for the formational years. And when I was in middle school, we moved down to the Miami area, Hialeah, one of the first cities I worked for as a firefighter years later. But I didn't like it. I was so used to the moving up north and the crowd. It was just a different culture, even though down here is obviously very bilingual. It's just a different culture. So I wanted to go back north, and I used college as an escape. I applied to a lot of schools in the Northeast. Most of the schools that I applied, actually every school I applied to, had a couple things in common. Number one, they had to have a Division I soccer program. That was truly my first love. My dream was to play soccer in Europe. So they had to have a good soccer program. And I was a pre-med student. I wanted to, pursue something in the healthcare field. And so that's what brought me to Boston. They gave me a pretty good scholarship, so I couldn't say no.
Yeah.
Full disclosure, Syracuse gave me a full ride, but I opted for Boston University. So.
Yeah, no, it's I didn't get a full ride at BU, but I did get some other offers at other schools, but I decided to go to BU as well. So sometimes, But did you play soccer at BU?
I actually redshirted. The summer before going away to college, I hurt my back in a soccer tournament. It was my team versus a team that was visiting from Jamaica. It was an international tournament, and I hurt my back pretty bad. I ended up having surgery at the end of my freshman year. So freshman year was a blur. I spent most of my time, visiting doctors and physical therapy and pain medications, and so I could barely walk. So freshman year was a tough year for me. I had surgery like my last day, May 7th, 1993 of my freshman year, May 8th at 7 a.m. I was at the hospital about to have back surgery.
So you're dealing with, I'm assuming a childhood dream of pursuing soccer at a professional level with an injury, starting college and doing pre-med.
Correct.
About 1,000 miles away from home in
exactly.
winters.
Yeah. So all that, boiled into one. And, like most, to maintain your scholarship, I think I don't know if it's changed, but you had to maintain a 2.3 GPA
Mhm.
or you'll go on academic probation. I think I got a 2.35 my freshman year, and that was without attending class, learning remotely. It was just a pain, literally, because I couldn't walk. I couldn't walk, sit for prolonged periods of time, stand. And with the cold, I was always stiff and shivering. And so it was tough for me. So I had surgery. So that summer, between my freshman and sophomore year, I came back home to Florida and I rehabbed. A buddy of mine was doing his internship at a physical therapy office, and they helped me rehab. And that's when I fell in love with the physical therapy field. And I kind of started pursuing rehab in that area. So fast forward to sophomore year, and for me, my sophomore year was my freshman year
Yeah.
because I was doing all the things I couldn't do. I was out running, riding bike, playing soccer, building up everything that I had lost. And so at the end of my sophomore year, I tried out. They had open tryouts for the BU soccer team. So it was over 100 individuals came out, tried out, and I was lucky enough to be the only one selected from that group. And I was invited to be part of the team on the practice squad. Eventually, I ended up redshirting. So my junior year, it was great for my ego from being told by a doctor I was never going to run again. Maybe even golf was too rough for me. Give up my dream of soccer to making at that time my junior year. BU was ranked number one in the nation, Division One soccer. So of course it was great for my ego, but unfortunately, since I wasn't a scholarship kid, I couldn't do 2-a-days or 3-a-day practices because I had to work. I had to go to class. I didn't have scholarship. So I ended up giving up that dream of pursuing college soccer and just played intramurals the rest of the junior year and senior year.
And as far as pre-med goes, did you always want to be a doctor as well
Oh,
before?
yeah.
Yeah.
That was a dream that I had, everybody, like I think you've mentioned in other podcasts, when you're growing up as a Latino, you want to be the doctor, a lawyer,
Yeah.
or an engineer. If you can be all three, even better.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, but I did enjoy it. I mean, even in high school, I had, I took all the hard classes and the honors and the fruit and a few advanced placement, that I could, and I loved it. So I pursued it. I did my declared major was exercise physiology, but then on my pre-med requirements, I try to fit in between them or take them as extra classes if my schedule allowed. So there was times where I was taking 5 classes a semester.
And so you ended up studying exercise physiology with
Correct.
what were you planning to do physical therapy with that or
Well, eventually, I was kind of, so like I said, since through my injury, I started looking into physical therapy.
Mhm.
So I applied right after graduating or during my senior year. I tried to apply for entry level masters. That's what was a requirement at the time. All these different schools, but there weren't that many. I was trying to get into BU, didn't take me, and some of the other schools. So unfortunately, I didn't get in to any of the master's programs. So I was kind of stuck in between a rock and a hard place because what can I do with my pre-med requirements and a degree in exercise physiology, which was a dying field,
Mhm.
because physical therapy and occupational therapy were the growing fields in healthcare. So I moved to New York and I became a personal trainer, and I was doing pretty well in New York City. Worked for Equinox for a little bit and for the 92nd Street Y. And then I had clients on the side, and I did pretty well. I was able to pay off my school loans in 8 months.
Nice. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, a lot of us are still paying them off 20 years later. So that
So I was pretty lucky. I mean, obviously, BU was kind of expensive, but the amount of money that I owed was a fraction of what most people do. So personal training in New York City actually was a surprise in a good way. I was able to pay him off, and so I was debt free before I even, started pursuing the marriage and all that. So I came in debt free. I was a good candidate.
so when did you get married?
I got married in 1999. So almost 4 years after graduating college.
Uh,
I met my wife, my first job in New York City, and we were friends. I was hanging out with friends and brothers and clubbing, and she was doing the same thing. And we were both in and out of relationships. And when I left that job, we became good friends. And then since we weren't working together anymore, we kind of stayed in contact. And eventually, one thing led to another, and we're celebrating our 25th year this year.
Nice. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Yeah. And so were you guys staying in New York the whole time when you guys were
No,
together?
we moved down I moved down here in December 98.
Mhm.
She came down a couple months after, and it was a tough transition because in New York City I was getting paid pretty well doing personal training. I came down here like I'm gonna start building my clientele base, but over here, people are. I'm not saying more fit, but they don't view personal training like they do in other places and willing to pay the money. They
Mhm.
were willing to pay me a fraction of that. I'm like, I got to do something with my life, and that's when I started pursuing getting back into physical therapy. So pursuing my getting my degrees, and first as a physical therapy assistant, and moving on eventually physical therapy. But it was just tough because then my son came along, and when you have to work and pay the bills, you do whatever you got to do, and full-time work, full-time school was not in my purview at that point.
So you've kind of been all over the place, I think Colombia back up to New York, back down to Florida, back up to
With a
Boston,
stint
back.
with a stint in Houston for a year and a half.
Yeah, and so one of the things that you talked about in your pre-interview that I thought was interesting is that you said one of the challenges was being ni de aquí, ni de allá. What were some of
Correct.
the challenges for you with that?
Well, I mean, growing up in a very Colombian household, because obviously my parents, now obviously with the years being here, they learned English, but everything was in Spanish at home. So of course I had the Colombian accent, and the culture, the food, everything was natural to me. Going away to college, very Colombian myself, very Latino, and meeting other Latino students at BU was great, but it was awkward because I was a member of Latinos Unidos, which is the Latino organization on campus. So right after my sophomore year, I became very active. Junior and senior years, I was president of Latinos Unidos, and we had a great collaboration with other members, and we had a great time. But I also started the Colombian Student Association.
Mhm.
So I was inviting Colombians, but a lot of these Colombians who were from Colombia used to tell me, "You're not Colombian. You're a gringo." Like, what do you mean I'm a gringo? I was born in Colombia. I speak the language. I know the culture. Yeah, yeah, but you're a gringo. You're Americanized. You're not really Colombian. So I've always had that struggle here. Even when I had to go visit the Colombian consulate in Boston, it's like, oh, I'm sorry, you're who from where? Oh, okay. Oh, excuse me, because the ambassador's son or whatever that goes to Harvard or MIT, I have to give them time and attention. And I'm like, well, I need my passport because I have a dual citizenship. I need to take care of my ID. How do I do that? So it was always that issue that I dealt with, which kind of sucks. And that's kind of been something that happens every time you travel. Even when I go back home to Colombia, I was there a couple weeks ago. It's now that I speak English a lot more often, obviously, than I do Spanish. You kind of get stuck a little bit. You forget certain words or things like that. So now over there, they're like, "Oh yeah, you are a gringo,"
Mhm.
Americano. So that's always been an issue.
Yeah,
But
it's funny too because it was a Colombian woman that made me feel the worst about myself in my life. I lived in a very predominantly Colombian area, so I grew up. I had
yeah,
Colombian uncles, and so um, and the lady who lived downstairs from me was this older Colombian lady, and she was asking me something in Spanish, and I was trying to answer her back, and she's like, "You should be ashamed of yourself for not being able to speak Spanish," and I literally stopped speaking Spanish for like 5 years. Like I would not respond to anybody in Spanish. I would just speak. I would go to school. There's all these Colombian kids that I knew that would talk to me in Spanish, Puerto Rican Dominicans, and they'll speak to me in Spanish, and I just would respond in English. And so we'd
yeah,
communicate because I understood them, but I was just always intimidated about
correct.
something.
You get self conscious about it, and that's one thing that for myself, I never felt intimidated about speaking Spanish and communicating in Spanish, but I could see that they don't treat you the same in certain areas, in certain fields, or you know, so you kind of become a little conscious, self conscious about it. But I actually became one of those people who are very adamant, like oh, what's your name? Oh, Perez. No, it's not Perez. It's Perez.
Hmm.
Yeah, pronounce it. It's Rodriguez. No, it's Rodriguez. Roll your R's. There's a Z at the end. So I kind of became a little bit adamant about making sure that we don't lose our culture because, yeah, we're American.
Hmm.
We've been blessed to have a lot of more opportunities being here in this country. But this is a country of immigrants, and you shouldn't shy away from what made you you and what you bring to this melting pot or whatever you want to call it. So
Yeah, that's it's a hard balance for a lot of us American, Latino Americans that live here. You go like I said, same thing. I'd go to Peru, and no, it was funny. We were going in a taxi in Peru, and the taxi driver saw me, wearing much more expensive clothing than like my cousins and stuff because I'm coming from America, and he's like, "Oh, it's gonna be like 25 soles to go to this place." And my cousin's buddy back is like, "No, señores, gringos está adelante. Acá estamos peruanos." He's like, "Don't try to fuck with us. Like, don't try to overcharge us because you think we're American." And so he's like,
you don't know
"Okay,
exactly.
okay, 15, 15." He's like, "Okay."
Exactly.
But
But
yeah, dude.
you
So
just have to overcome that. That's it. You learn like, oh, okay, you keep
yeah.
that in your pocket or something for the next time.
For real. Yep. Yep. And so going back to your journey, brother, and you at what point did you like were you having struggles working, or did you not enjoy the work you were looking for in physical therapy that you decided to switch careers, or what made you decide to switch?
I was working when I moved down. I was working in this physical therapy clinic, and they laid me off. They laid me off after I trained three different directors because I wasn't a degree. My degree was not in physical therapy, so because of the way the contract was written, they had to hire as a director for those clinics a physical therapist. Even though there was a transition, the first physical therapist that I worked for, he left. He actually got tired of physical therapy, became a firefighter. So we had talked about it. Like, I remember when I was a kid, I wanted to be that too. But he told me you should come to the fire academy with me. We should do it together. But I was like, my son was only, I think he was maybe a year old. I like, no, I can't take time off and go back to school. That kind of mentality. Not really researching how it went. And then for the city of Hialeah, some of their workers' comp firefighters to come through, and that's how I started learning more about how it was, the academy, the lifestyle, the work, the benefits, all that other stuff, and it kind of left a seed in my head. So he left. We got another therapist who was hired, so I had to train her how to use the computers, how to do the system, where the paperwork, insurance claims. I had to teach her how to do everything, but she was the one getting all the big bucks. So of course I asked, hey, listen, I'm doing the training, I'm doing this. Can you compensate me? Maybe give me a couple bucks raise for the work I've. No, sorry, I can't do that. This and that. That lady ended up going because she got a better offer somewhere else. Another one came along. She was great. I trained her as well. Same thing. And then the day before Thanksgiving, they told me, oh, by the way, this is going to be your last week. Here's a severance check. Apologize, but we're letting you go. So they did let me go. So of course, the day before Thanksgiving, Christmas is around the corner, and then I have no job. So my best friend from high school that I told you helped me rehab. That was doing the internship in one of the local hospitals in the physical therapy department. And like, hey, you know anything in the hospital? Somebody was hiring? Actually, yeah, we're hiring. Boom. I got hired like 2 weeks later, thankfully. And so I worked for the hospital for a couple of years. And same thing, when I was there, I was working with a lot of what we call special populations, people who had chronic injuries, had chronic diseases. And, since most insurances only pay 3 times a week times 4 weeks or whatever, and once the insurance plan went out, I used to work with them almost like a physical therapy slash personal trainer mentality, trying to get them back to get ready to work because a lot of people needed to get back to work so they can make more money. And that's how I met other firefighters who said, man, you know what? You'd be a great firefighter. You can do this and you can do that. You have this time off, and then you seem like you're very good with people. And I said, you know what? Let me go ahead and find out what's this whole ordeal with Fire Academy. And I did. I ended up signing up with another buddy of mine that was working with me who was in the same struggle because we were working basically Monday through Sunday. And he had a newborn. My son was already growing up. I'm like, we need to spend some time with the families. We're missing birthdays and kids' parties because we were working the weekends. And so we went to a fire academy on a part-time basis, and then we were working on a part-time basis for 6 months. And from there, I mean, it was tough. I was sleeping maybe 3 hours a night because my wife and my son went to bed around 10. From 10 to 2 o'clock in the morning, that was my study time. Everything was quiet in the house, studying, making sure I did everything good. Boom, boom, boom. And then right after graduation from the fire academy, went right into EMT school. And but I started applying to all these different departments while I was in EMT school, and I got a call back from the city of Hialeah. Hey, we're going to give you a conditional. You have to make sure you pass the national certification as an EMT. No problem. And that's it. It happened real fast for me. So in that way, I was blessed
Nice.
because some of the guys that I've worked with currently or have worked with in the past, some of them waited 6, 7, 8 years to get the call that it took me from starting the fire academy to getting hired a year. Some of these guys went to academy, went to EMT school, became paramedics, applied here, applied there. 6, 7, 8 years later, they finally got hired. So in that sense, I've been blessed.
Nice. And how old were you when this happened?
30 years old when I changed
So you're
professions.
30, married with a kid, uh,
Yes. Bills,
bills, pays,
exactly.
responsibilities. And it's funny
Yeah,
because you think back, like college, and I'm like, oh man, responsibility and partying and staying up to 3, and I'm like, man, I can't believe, you look back like, man, I can't believe we stayed up to like 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning partying, and then you get to like your 30s or 40s, and you're like, man, I can't believe I'm staying up to 3, 4 in the morning to get my life in order just to keep moving
exactly.
forward. You know what I mean? So,
Yeah, yeah.
well,
So
how were you able to like keep yourself motivated through all that stuff?
I mean, when it came to studying, I always felt motivated
Mhm.
because, in the back of my mind, you're always told, no, you can't do that or you can't do this, and that was my driving force, especially through high school. I had a guidance counselor who a white guy, nice guy, but when it came to apply to colleges, he used to tell us, yeah, you know what? Yeah, you're a good student. You're top 1% of your graduating high school class. But you shouldn't apply to BU. You shouldn't apply to these schools because you're not going to get in. You should apply to the community college or maybe technical school. I'm like, wait a minute, I have better GPA than all these other people, and you're not discouraging them from applying. Why me? So it was always that, I got to prove people wrong mentality, and I'm smarter than most people say. Not only that, I can think in 2 languages, do math in 2 languages, and I always had that kind of chip on the shoulder. So uh, when it came to studying, I've always had that. And but also, of course, like you say, now with a wife and kid, it just adds to the desire to succeed, because it's, you always say, you want to provide and whatever it takes, you work 60 hours, 100 hours a week, whatever hours a week, you make it happen.
Yeah. No,
So
it's funny too because you as a father and a husband as well. It's like there's these weird motivations to do better, and it's like I was living kind of like this for a long time, and then I got married and have kids, and I just started pushing myself a lot more, because you have something
correct.
to work for. So,
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
and so as far as like firefighter school, what's like a firefighter academy like? What do you what is it? I
I
know.
always say fire academy is like a paramilitary institution.
Mhm,
I'm not military, obviously respect to them. The boot camp.
mhm,
You have to go and be able to perform under stress, under duress. But on top of just physical activities, you also function in high temperature areas because obviously you're going to be going into a fire, not necessarily running away from it. And on top of all that, being able to carry heavy equipment, so it is very physically demanding. And somebody who was a soccer player, I ran half marathons and 10Ks and all that, the physical portion, I was a personal trainer for many years and spin instructor and all that other stuff that I was able to do. Uh, the physical portion was the easy part. The hard part was, just getting mentally ready to put your life on the line if need be. So it was one of those things that, but it was fun. The adrenaline rush. I didn't think it was going to be that great because when I got into it, I don't know how it is in most of the parts of the country, but here in South Florida, even though you're a firefighter paramedic, you can be both and function in a fire truck. It's not like New York City where you have fires on one side, EMS is the other side. We kind of do everything. So in my fire truck, we have ALS equipment, advanced life support equipment, IVs, medications, all that. And of course, we have tons of hoses and a lot of water and
mhm,
ladders, tools, and all that other stuff. So we function, in that duality in a way.
mhm.
So I was looking forward to more of the medical aspect, being a paramedic, but because obviously my background and pre med and all that came easy to me. But then once I got into the first burn at the fire academy, the adrenaline rush, it was exciting. And, you look forward to another fire and breaking things and, saving things and jumping out windows and all the things that you kind of get over glorified on TV. But that's pretty much the passion that you build. And it's been with me to this day.
I was going to ask, I do want to get into the medical stuff aspect of it and as well, but you know that overcoming that fear, because I'm sure there's that initial fear of like, what the hell am I signing up for?
Yeah.
You natural instinct is to run away from the fire, and you're signing up to run into the fire. I was like,
Yeah.
what did you have to do to try to get yourself hyped up and overcome that initially? Because I'm sure it was a bit of a struggle.
I mean, well, you know what? I can't say, at least I can't say that I was ever afraid. It was more like the adrenaline rush always took over. Like, oh my, it's hot. Oh my God, it's getting hot. Oh, this is cool. Okay, how much can so it became that mental game. And you just learn to exercise the mind.
Yeah.
One thing that I thought I was afraid of heights. So when you're climbing the 100-foot ladders or doing things at the edge of buildings and rappelling and things like that we kind of train for, I was surprisingly more gung ho about it than I thought I would be. I thought I was going to be a little bit afraid of that,
Mhm.
but no, but that was pretty cool. So I actually was pleasantly surprised how well I handle stress.
Nice. And,
Uh, and,
and and do you feel like you were able to find a good balance from what like you wanted to go to school for, in some sort of medical field, and now you're actually kind of doing EMT, and you have a crap load of certifications for a whole variety of different things. You know,
yeah, and the good thing is that like I tell people, the first thing people, oh, you're a firefighter. What's the worst call you've ever been to? We unfortunately for the community called dials 911. They're never going to call us. Hey, come hang out at a birthday party or
yeah,
come to our. They're always going to call us when it's their worst moment in their life. Obviously, for some people, what's worse in their life might be different for others. Obviously, the stereotypical car accidents, gunshot wounds, cardiac arrest, things like that. Obviously, those are pretty traumatic. But I mean, we get calls for some of the silliest things that you would imagine, and people, call you for stubbed my toe 3 days ago. I still can't walk, or my nose has been bleeding for 20 minutes. Oh my God, what am I going to do? To there's a snake in my house. Can you get it? So when they dial 911, they expect, for us to handle everything from, oh, there's a leak in my apartment. They told me to call you guys, and man, we're not plumbers, but let's see what we can do. So what that has allowed me, going back to answering your question, is helping people.
Mhm.
I mean, when you get into the medical profession, most of the people who, whether it be doctors, physician assistants, nurses, whatever it is, therapists, the desire is to help people. And so I've been able to educate people as well, about the healthcare system, which in some communities is pretty messed up still. But especially people who are not insured or underinsured, we are their primary care physicians. Unfortunately, what happened? Well, my blood pressure's high. Okay, have you seen your doctor? No, because I have to wait 2 months for a visit, or they don't have any. I have to wait a month, or so you go there and you take their blood pressure and you educate them. Do you take your medication? No, because it's too expensive. Well, if you go here, they might be able to give it to you for cheaper. And so it's just basically like you're a community liaison.
Mhm.
And that's something that I've appreciated as well. Besides trying to keep people calm and things like that during their worst time, it's been something that gave me a lot of gratification as well. So that's kind of where I kind of tied it in with all my healthcare experience, where the patient is number one. You treat everybody like it's your mom, your dad, your grandma, your grandpa, and you do well. So I've been pretty fortunate to be at that point.
Nice. And when it comes to obviously career changes and
Hmm.
people who are looking, what kind of advice would you give people who are like in a stump and they're like, man, maybe I should go do something different, but I'm afraid.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I was afraid just to go from a full-time hours to part-time hours just to go to the fire academy. I mean, my wife was working part-time because my son was still young. So, she was awesome. She stepped up and she started working the full-time hours while I was going to the academy. So I didn't see her for a couple of days because she worked in the morning. I was with my son in the morning. or working, depending on the day of the week. And then I had to go drop him off at my mom's house. And so that hour and a half, 2 hours where I had to leave to go to the fire academy, and my wife got off of work to pick him up. So I didn't see her till maybe Sundays on certain occasions. So that was tough, but you know, um, like I said, you make it happen. And so the advice that I tell people is do it for the right reasons, because the worst thing you can do is be at a job where you're miserable at.
Mhm.
And while I enjoyed my other work in the healthcare setting, in the hospital setting, the bad part is that I had no life, because I was working, like I said, Monday through Fridays, weekends for sure. And I was missing my son growing up, and I couldn't coach him in soccer. I couldn't see him play basketball, his first words. So those are things I didn't want to miss. And learning about firefighting and all the stories, because that's one thing I can guarantee you: you'll never meet a firefighter that likes being light duty or that enjoys doing a 40-hour work week. Most of them that are 40-hour work week is because you either gotten older, or unfortunately an injury has sidelined them and they're pretty good at whatever case may be. But being on light duty for a prolonged period of time, you'll never find one, because that's how much we love the profession and how much the job means to us. So I understood that watching and working with some of these then patients of mine. And dude, yeah, you had a knee replacement. Yeah, the doctor told me in 3 months, but I need to get back in a month. I'm going crazy. I missed the guys. I missed the firehouse, which I like to call the frat house,
Mhm.
which anyone who's been a member of the fraternity can understand that you build a camaraderie. It's like family. So, so
It's like it's like playing a sport. Like where people who play sports, like you never want to quit playing sport. Like even now, I haven't played football in 27 years. If I could go back and play one more game, one more down in high school again,
hey,
I
look,
would do it in a heartbeat. Yeah, you know.
I'm the best TV coach, man. I'm yelling at the TV for every soccer game I see, and I comment on it. And of course, 2 seconds later, the sportscaster just says, "That's what I said." I should be a sportscaster, but yeah, no. If you find your passion and you find something that drives you, and it's not work, I enjoy going to work. I don't call out sick, because I mean I've called out sick when my wife was sick or my son was sick, not because I was sick, because I love going to work, you know, and so that's been a plus.
and
So if you're able to find a passion, something that just drives you, and then you're lucky. You're lucky,
yeah,
and it's okay to change and experiment until you find. I never thought I was going to be a firefighter. I mean, I was going to be a professional soccer player, and I was going to be a doctor, and then maybe a physical therapist. And I'm having more fun doing firefighting than teaching now.
yeah. I think one of the hardest things I think of growing up, one of the things I think is a sign that you've grown up is being able to like change your plans and realize things can go a little different and try something different and try something new,
Yeah,
and convince yourself to make those moves because it is scary. It's
yeah.
never going to be easy. So.
And I can tell you, the scariest moment for me was the day I realized I was not going to play professional soccer.
Hmm.
That because since I was a kid, I mean, my earliest memory was always playing soccer, organized teams, travel teams, and my days off from practice or games, I was out there running 10, 15 miles. I was preparing to get to that point. And then when I hurt my back, it was like that has hurt me more than any other career change that I've had in the past. I guess that taught me not to be as afraid of change.
Hmm.
Like mentioning now the career change from working in healthcare to becoming a firefighter. I mean, like it was devastating to me, not being able to pursue the dream of playing professional soccer. That's how much it meant. So, but it also taught me that what, uh, you know, uh, for a lot of us who grew up in the church, they always said, if you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. You know, and that's how it was. Like, what's gonna happen next, and you go by faith, and things will happen. So
Yeah, yeah, definitely, man. That's great words to live by, man. So,
yeah,
uh, and so at this point in your career, you're teaching now, right? Is that
correct.
is that your next progression to your next stage in your career, or?
Not necessarily. I kind of got into it because firefighting. We work a weird schedule. My department, we work 24-hour shifts, but we're off for 48 hours. So 24 on, 48 off. So I used to find myself coming home, yeah, helping around the house and clean and mop. Luckily, we don't make too much of a mess. Now the biggest mess is our dogs, but and then I'm home, and then okay, what do I? My son's in school, and I just caught myself just relaxing, maybe reading because I still like enjoy reading, but then I feel like I was not being productive anymore on my days off. So they told me they were looking for some instructors at the fire academy, and I'm like, you know what? Let me go for it, and I did, and it's been pretty fun. It's been pretty fun because a lot of these well, kids, I say kids because all of them are younger than me. Well, yeah, well, these young adults going to the academy are now working with me. Some are working for other departments, so I get to see them, and so it's been pretty fulfilling to see them also pursue their goals and get hired a lot earlier than me. I mean, you got 19-year-olds who are firefighters now. I'm like, bro, you still look like you don't even shave yet, and you're already a firefighter. How awesome is that?
Nice.
You know, but
Yeah, and
that
what kind of advice do you give them or to anybody who says, I'd like to become a firefighter? What do I need to do to become one?
well, find out in your local departments what they require to hire.
Hmm.
For us, most departments of South Florida, you're required to be state certified as a firefighter, to have your certificate as an EMT, in many cases, certificate as a paramedic. So the fire academy could be anywhere between 6 months to a year, depending where you go, what state. EMT could be 1 semester, and paramedics is 2.5 years. So pursue it if that's what you want, and make it happen, and start applying for the different departments. And then once you get hired, depending on the department, you have some small departments that are, 3, 4, 5 stations, um, that may not have that much opportunity for growth versus my department. My department is the largest in the Southeast, the fifth or sixth largest in the country. And we're in the water. So if you want to be a scuba diving, if you're a scuba diver, we have that. Be a paramedic on a helicopter, we have that. Be a paramedic on a boat captains, we have that. We have swamp boats, we have tons of fire trucks, ladder trucks. We have hazmat teams. We have technical rescue teams. We have airport fire. So my department has allowed us to pursue even within firefighting, all the different interests, and that's what allowed me to pursue all different certifications until I found my niche. My niche was hazmat. Um, taking chemistry in high school and college, and all this other stuff, it kind of drew me, and that's why I pursued it. And I'm part of the hazmat team, so it's pretty cool.
Nice.
So
No, that's awesome, dude. And um, I just keep thinking. You said swamps. I'm like, I'm sure you do a lot of alligators too.
myself, no, I stay in my lane. We do have our wrangling alligator guys and snake guys. We do have a venom program as well, uh, which actually some of our captains have featured in Animal Planet, and things like that. Doing that, dealing with snakes and all that you find here in the Everglades, and poisons, bites, and all this other stuff. So they pursued it. They were pretty good at it. But yeah, not me. Alligators, I mean, they look good from a distance, and that's why I was a recreational scuba diver, but I don't do it for the department because to go into some of these waters and there may be alligators or water moccasins. Yeah, they can have that. I rather be
Nice, nice. And so, what is the difference between volunteer firefighting, fire
yeah.
firefighters, and like a regular firefighter?
Well, volunteer firefighters, which is most of the country, fire departments, more rural areas or smaller communities that may not have the tax income to be able to pay professional firefighters. So the big cities, most if not all of our salaries come from taxes. So if you have a good tax base, you're able to afford better policing, better firefighting, better social services, things like that. So that's the main difference. Volunteers, you could become a volunteer firefighter in your community if your department does not have paid professionals. You go to a fire academy, it'll teach you the basics, and you'll respond. You'll get a beeper, and okay, I'm on duty for, let's just say, on Mondays between this time and this time, if that pager goes off, you're on, you go, either you have your gear in your car, or you go to the nearest fire station to you. You'll jump in their fire truck and then go to wherever the scene is. Versus us, we live in the firehouse 24 hours at a time. So we're taking off from the firehouse. And of course, the pay is commensurate to experience, certifications, and things like that. So
Nice.
rank, of course. So
And
that's the main difference.
in retirement, like what's usually the retirement ages for firefighters? Is it young, or is it about the same as everyone else? Because I don't know if I've seen many 65-year-old firefighters.
Yeah, no, I mean, well, you'll have your 65-year-olds here and there. I mean, every department sets it different.
Mhm.
To become a firefighter, certain departments cap it at 29.
Mhm.
Some at 28. I know New York City has I may be wrong, but I know New York City, I think they cap it at 29 years old. So if you're 35 years old, you want to pursue firefighting in New York City, you may not be able to. My department, we hire 40-year-olds, 45-year-olds who are in great shape, who have all the certifications, and they meet all the requirements and they pass. Oh, this is my second career, or whatever case may be. So age-wise, there is no restrictions. Well, some departments don't have restrictions. In terms of retirement, for the most part, they have either 20 years or 55 years of age, or 25 years of service, or 55 years of age, depending. And then your retirement is a percentage of your highest few years. Some do highest 3 years, highest 5 years. They'll give you a percentage of that in retirement. So it really depends on the city or the county or the state or the community you work for.
And what does most firefighters do once they retire? They just enjoy life, or do they stay busy?
Uh, well, most of us have second jobs
Yeah.
because our schedule, even though we work 96 hours biweekly, you know, we just do it 24-hour blocks at a time. So we're 48 hours every week.
Hmm.
But like I said, 24 hours on, 48 off. So during the 48 hours, we have, like, for example, my captain, he's an AC tech and he has some family business. Another buddy of mine, one of my lieutenants, he has his own roofing company. We have guys who are physical therapists, who are attorneys, who are physician assistants, who are nurses. So instructors, which is something that I am doing now because it works with my schedule now. So we all have different jobs. So once they retire, we kind of stay tied into usually our second jobs.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, just to keep it interesting. I tell my wife, if I retire, I already have my age. I'm retiring at the age of 58. That's
Mhm.
my goal. So I'm 8 years away. But by that point, I'll have 30, yeah, like 30, 30 years of service.
Nice. That's awesome. And
Yeah,
did,
yes.
and so I guess one of the big things too is um, you've come a long way. You've dealt with a lot of different things. You've started your career as wanted to be soccer and do all this stuff. And
I know.
obviously, a lot of life lessons learned. If you could go back and start telling yourself give yourself some advice, what's something you tell yourself?
Um, yeah, the best advice I can give myself is just whatever you do, 100%.
Hmm.
Find you're not always, not everything that you dreamt of is going to come true, and that's okay. You can't just tie your entire existence to a dream. A lot of people that I know have been able to pursue their dreams and they're happy. A lot of people that I've met have pursued their dreams and are miserable. So, if the most important thing is find something that makes you happy, and I think that is an accomplishment in itself. If money will pursue, being able to pay your bills, all that will come in play. It will fall into place. But just finding your passion and being happy with what you do, that whether you sleep an hour or 2 hours, you wake up ready to go to work. I think that's a win. So finding your passion, whatever it is, and don't be afraid to experiment. I mean, I was forced to do career changes, and some people have the luxury to take the time and change and pursue it. Other people have no choice. Just whatever you do, don't do it just for the money. Do it for the passion.
Yeah.
And that's something I still tell my students. Why do you want to be a firefighter? Oh, my dad told me. You know what? You told me, the fact that your dad told you, you're not going to enjoy it. You know, oh, you can tell somebody really wants something by the way they talk about what they're pursuing. I wanted to be a doctor. As I was a kid, I used to operate on my dolls, and I used to cut open my sister's dolls, and I used to cut the, you can see the passion from the kid, and they pursue it. That's great. I used to break my computer, and then I put it back together, and then that that's their passion, and that happens for a lot of us. For me, like I said, for me was it just happened to be that meeting the right people at the right time in my life led me to what I didn't know was going to be my passion, and here I am.
Nice. Well, I
Yeah.
appreciate that, and it's yeah, I'm sure it's something you tell your son too, because
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Well, it's funny. My son, he used to, when he was a little, he used to be all like, "Oh my God, Dad! So what happened today? Did you see blood? Did you see any bones? Did you see, guts coming out? Whatever little kid would ask you." And of course, I never told them all the blood and guts stories that unfortunately I was encountering at the. But I flowered it, making some PG for him. He was always like, "Wow," and so when he was 4 years old, I took him to that bodies exhibition. I don't know if you
oh yeah,
remember.
yeah.
So let me see how squeamish she is. It was one day I was off of work, and they gave us firefighters like 50% off. I'm like, you know what, let's do it. My wife was working, so me and him on a field trip. I'm like, let me see how squeamish she is. And I thought he was gonna be like, ew, what is that? Man, my son was like a mechanic under a hood. Wow, Bobby, is that where the poopy comes out? Like, oh, and he was just so curious, and I'm like, you know what, this kid's gonna be something in the healthcare.
Hmm.
And he used to come to the firehouse and get on the, put the helmet and put the gear and get in the truck, and climb up. And so as he got older, like, yes, you're gonna be a firefighter. He's like, nah. So, trying to tinker as he was applying for college. What do you want to do? And asking him questions over the years, and until he finally found, you know what? Yeah, he pursued nursing. He got his BSN, and he's been working as a nurse for a year now.
Nice.
So he found his passion, and he likes it. And to this day, we can talk the lingo. Oh, not today. I was doing this procedure and that procedure, and this person had this and that, and he's passionate about the way he talks about it, and that to me is fulfillment because he found what he likes, and he found it young. He was 21 when he graduated from college, so he's a puppy, and
Yeah.
he found his passion, which is good.
That's
So
awesome, man. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. And I guess this all kind of ties in back to my last question, which I think you probably already kind of answered. But like, how do you say success in Spanglish?
yeah. I mean, exactly. I mean, finding your passion, being happy, and just knowing that as you look back, you know, you're able to kind of one up your parents. You
Hmm.
know, your parents came to this country, first generation Latinos here, or whatever case may be, and they worked odd jobs, things that they probably did not educate themselves on, but they made it happen. Waiting tables, busing, doing this, mopping, sweeping, cleaning, which I used to do with my parents at night. We used to go clean banks in New York City. I remember that 12 midnight. I'm sitting on the little shiny machine, whatever you call those, to polish floors. And
Hmm.
my sister and I used to hold down for dear life. And that was fun. And my dad that was one of his many jobs. But, and they struggled. They made it happen. They put 4 kids through college. And, so now it's like, now what can we do to see how successful they are? And can we play one up on them? you know so that to me is being able to be successful, and playing, improving from where your parents left off, which is the same thing I tell my son. Okay, I went to college, I got my bachelor's, and then I was able to get extra certifications and this. So now you have to go for at least your master's, and then start earlier, start younger. And luckily, he was able to start his life debt free from college loans, because we make sure that that was something that we don't want him to struggle with, my wife and I. So it worked out. We've been blessed in that sense. So, like I said, just pursue your passion. Something that's gonna, wake up and, you can tell your passion by the way you talk about it.
Yeah.
You Kind of
Yeah,
like,
bro, it's funny because it's a very immigrant response with do you do better than what your parents did, so, and hope that your kids do better than you, because
exactly. That's exactly
all
it.
the sacrifice they did motivates me to keep going harder, and motivates me to make my life easier for my daughter, so that she could hopefully make
Yeah,
life
yeah,
easier for herself too. So no, dude,
exactly.
I love
And
it,
you
man.
know what? But it's also, and not that I'm always hoping for them to, but to do, but we all need to learn to struggle a little bit.
Yeah,
That struggle will help you develop into the person that you are meant to be. Because if you have everything so good, especially at an early age. And then, like I see myself when I, because of my back injury, my back surgery, which surprisingly never really affected me in fire academy
Mhm.
and all this other stuff in my career. But, when I came to the realization that I had to give up my lifelong dream, I'm glad it happened to me when I was young. Because imagine finding out that the dream you've wanted to pursue your whole life, and you're in your 20s and your 30s, and then you come to a realization that you're not going to be able to accomplish it. That's that I would consider scary. You know, Getting close to your middle age and realizing that's not going to happen for you. At that point, I think it's scarier. So you want to see your kids struggle as much as you want to be there to catch them, pick them up. It's good for them to have their little struggles. I mean, obviously, we don't want anything tragic or anything, but struggle is good. It,
Yeah.
it, it builds resilience and it builds character. And it also gives you that introspection to see how tough we really are and how we handle stress and stressful situations. And I think that also helps me in my career. All the stuff I've seen, I sleep good at night. I don't have nightmares. I don't have ghosts. I don't see faces, even though I've had some pretty tragic events in firefighting because the career, but so I've been pretty lucky in that. And I think all the struggles I went through, the things that I've seen, helped me become, stronger.
Nice. Well, amazing, man. Thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your story.
My pleasure.
I'm so glad to hear, the passion is still alive in you. So,
Oh, yeah, yeah. I mean, unfortunately, the body's slowing down. I'll be turning 50. That's why I enjoy driving now. Now I'm able to drive the fire truck
mhm.
full time. And but so it's not as physically demanding as jumping in and out of the truck. But I still get to do that, and that's fun. But the mind's still sharp.
Yeah, there we go. That's all it can be, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, I really appreciate you being
no
here, man.
problem, and I appreciate having me on, and continued success with this show. I've listened to all the episodes, and I'm glad to hear that it's doing well for you as well. So
Nice.
congratulations on that.
Well, thank you, man. I really appreciate it, man. So, and for everyone else, thank you so much for joining. And I hope you'll join me again next time as we continue to learn how to say success in Spanglish.